Do you ever have the homeschool day where you feel like just nothing is going as planned? Nothing is going right. Your children will not cooperate. You've lost all motivation to continue homeschooling and you just don't know what to do because all you can think about is how badly you want to put your kids on the big yellow bus and just have a break and have the house to yourself. I've had a lot of days like that over my years homeschooling, and I want to share about one of those days. It was actually our first week back to school a couple of years ago. We had a really rough start to our school year, and it was really hard to recover from. So I'm going to share a little bit about that week, that first day back, that first week that we went back to school, kind of what happened, and then how I recovered from it. And I've used this kind of plan. I've used this now several times whenever we have a really rough week, because sometimes you just need kind of a homeschool reset. So I'm going to share how I reset our homeschool after having a really difficult start to our homeschool week. So the week before our homeschool was starting, my husband had just chaos at work. Just lots of things were changing, and there was just a lot of stress on both of us about his job. One of my children hurt her foot really badly, really injured her Achilles tendon. She was having trouble walking, so there wasn't a whole lot she could do. It was hard for me to manage my little people and then also deal with one of my older children who couldn't get around well. Then the weekend right before we were planning to start that Monday, I actually rolled my ankle really badly and hurt the ligament. So we had yet another visit to urgent care, 2 in 1 week, one for my child, one for me. And so I spent that week limping around trying to get things ready for school. During that very first week of school, I actually experienced a death in my family. Then we also got word that another one of my family members was critically ill. So I had the added stress of not only my husband's job, an injured child, I was injured, I had a death in the family. I wasn't able to travel back home to be with my family, and then another family member I learned was also ill. So we woke up to our school. Our homeschool room was a complete mess on that first Monday, our first day of school. I had not had a chance to clean it up because I had spent so much time at the urgent care or on the phone with family, and so our room was just a disaster. And we tried to start off our day picking up our room. In hindsight, I should have put off the first week of school, but I was just determined to dive in and get started because I'm a planner, and that was the day I had planned to start our homeschool, and so I was going to start that day really no matter what, which in hindsight was not wise. I should have just taken some time off, stepped back, and really been more prepared. And because I was not prepared and our room was a mess, my kids ended up fighting and arguing and whining and complaining, and our entire morning was a disaster as we tried to get our school started. By about 10 a.m., I had told the kids to go play, and I took a break. I went and shut myself in the closet, called my husband crying, and told him, I cannot do this. I am exhausted. I do not want to homeschool. Our day is not going well. I'm not ready for a new homeschool year. I don't even want to have this homeschool year. I'm just not ready at all. And so after a long conversation with him, we kind of came up with a game plan to help me reset my homeschool day, and I've used this several times because nothing that I tried to do that day had been able to reset the attitudes of my kids or really my own attitude. And so we did just scrap that day, call it quits, and I had to start over another day. So what I do to reset my homeschool when we have a day like this where nothing goes as planned is I call an emergency meeting. So we get all our kids together and we all pile on the couch and we just call an emergency family meeting. And we just talk about what's going well, and we try to find things that we can thank them for or praise them for, things that they're doing well. And then we talk about areas where we really need some work and talk about, how we're going to improve, and we get their input and we ask them to share with us why they think things aren't going well and how they think things could be better. And then we all sit down together and we create a new plan. So I had to completely change my plan for that year. I changed up my schedule. I stepped back a little bit. We kind of restarted a week or so later because we just weren't prepared that week to get started with school. And I wanted our year to be successful, and I really wanted it to start off on the right foot and not feel stressed and overwhelming. So I did have to make a new plan for our homeschool on that day. And then You also just need to know that you're going to have those days, and it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong or that you're a failure as a homeschool mom or that your kids suddenly hate homeschooling and it's not going to work. It's just life. There are days where your kids don't want to be homeschooled, don't want to do anything, and there are days that you'll feel the same way too. And so just know that it's normal to feel that way, and we all feel that way. We all have days that are really, really off track, and sometimes you just need to stop homeschooling on that day and take a break and take time to have that family meeting later and create the new plan, have your reset. And then you really need to remember that homeschooling is more about character, not only your children's character, but it's also about your character. You will learn so much about yourself and things that you need to work on as you homeschool your kids, and you'll also see all of their faults all day long because you are with them all day. You are together all day. So I have found that homeschooling should really be focused on character and your character development and their character development. So when you have those days where nothing is going right and you can't get to anything on your lesson plan, then just take that day off from formal homeschooling and focus on attitudes and character and work on really training them in character and building that character in them. And so sometimes you just need to take maybe a day or even a week or so and take that time to really focus on character instead. And I have found that homeschooling has really taught me more about being flexible and just learning to adapt than probably anything that I've ever done, which is really hard for me since I am such a planner. But I have found that it's been a really good lesson for me to learn that I can adapt, I can change. Sometimes we need to stop what we're doing. I needed to just take a break on that school year before we even started, and I should have pushed back my start date and waited until we were ready and had a good plan in place before we actually got started. So I should have been a lot more flexible with our start date. I have learned that lesson, and we've had much better starts to our homeschool years ever since then. But I wanted to share that with you in case you're having a rough day or a rough year and you feel like you kind of need a reset. Those are some steps that I've taken to kind of help us reset our day or our year and get things back on track. But know that there's going to be chaos and there will be hard days, and we all experience that. And it's definitely not that you are doing something wrong or that your kids are. It's just the nature of homeschooling. It's the nature of parenting and really trying to focus on the character you want to develop in your kids. So I try to take those days as opportunities in teaching my kids character and really just having discussions with them on what we need to work on and what we can develop as far as our character.